who is Wildheart? Like, tell me about your band.
We are a melodic hardcore band from Brisbane, Australia, and we've been kicking around for quite a while now, since like 2015. And we've put out two EPs, and we're about to put out our first full length. And yeah, we've basically just been playing around Australia for the time being. We had planned to go to Japan last year. That obviously didn't happen. But now that things are starting to kind of slowly go back to normal, obviously we're super psyched to get back out and play some shows and show off the new record.
So what is like the music creation process like for you? Like, how do you go from sort of ideas to finished product?
It usually starts with me demoing ideas, and then I send them to the other boys to have a listen to, and usually get some feedback from that. And sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, and then it's just kind of back and forth. And then spend a fair bit of time just jamming it, because I demo very basic drums, but I really like it when Andrew comes in and fleshes it out a little bit, makes it sound a little bit more human. But yeah, there's nothing really particularly different to, I think, what most people are doing.
In saying that too, like I've been in a number of bands, and you're like one of the, the handful of guitarists that, like, when you sit down and program drums, you kind of know me and how I play, and I'll sit down with you and I'm like, this is great. And it'll be like a few tweaks, but I find that part of the writing process like really, really smooth. Is like, we'll sit down with the MIDI drums and we'll kind of go, well, this is what this would look like. But most of the time, like, it's already like, you come with a demo and I'm like, sweet, like, just play that.
But yeah, a lot of just backwards and forwards really, until we're sort of happy with it. And usually a lot of the time when we actually jam it live, we'll get a kind of just playing it, you might have something that you thought was really sick, and then you play it and you're like, oh, it drags a bit, or it needs a little pizzazz or something. So that's usually a good time for us to kind of get a bit of a feeling for how they feel live. So yeah, I really like going through that process, and then there's back to the drawing board, and then try out some new ideas. And that's pretty much it, really. Write some words on some paper and go and record it.
So how did you get to the point where you were like we're going to do an album now? Like, what was that process like to sort of get to the point where you're like, we're going to do a full album rather than just like, I suppose, like pump out singles like people are sort of turning to?
It was back like when we kind of started tossing around ideas for songs with this release. I mean, we pretty much, as soon as we released our previous EP, We Are, in 2018, I remember a friend commenting on my Instagram post being like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're already doing songs, like that just came out. And I was like, yeah, like, and we were pre-proing at Adam's like old place. And I think we really kind of sat there, and like, there were two levels to it. Like, one was kind of the thematic concept of the album. Like, this, by the time we hit like that, the 13 tracks, including the intro, it kind of didn't feel like, if the themes felt different, it could have split the two EPs, but it really tied together thematically. And we had the material. I guess like what a lot of bands do is, if in the process of writing full length, you'd sit there and you'd write maybe like 20 songs and then you cut that back. But we hit that number and there weren't really any that we wanted to cut. Like, they were all really, like, really strong songs. And I think we said, yeah, let's do it. Obviously COVID threw a spanner in the works, and it could have come out earlier, but kind of, I remember sitting down with Tim at the start of this year and going, and the plan was really around the end of this year for release. It hasn't changed much since then. So I think really we've just all been happy with the songs, the process. And yeah, you're right. Like, when a lot of bands have been doing singles, and so have we, but I think we really just wanted the music to speak for itself and showcase, this is Wildheart, this is what we're about. We hope you like it. So
we definitely did have the conversation though at a certain point. Like, should we do another EP or do like singles? Yeah. And I think we kind of just were like, we should just do an album, because it was kind of like a more challenging. It was more like a bucket list item because we hadn't done an album at that point. But yeah, as Andrew said, like, you know, I think I was writing right up until we started recording. So it was still pretty fresh and there wasn't really a lot of bloat or anything like that. I don't think there was too much concern about things not, because yeah, we did sink a lot of time into like, you know, thinking where things are going to sit, how does it flow. We don't want people to get bored listening to it, you know, and we wanted it to be dynamic and have a nice variety of different kind of you know, timbres and moods and things like that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day we had enough material, so we just were like, fuck it, let's do it.
So I've been lucky to hear your album already, thanks to Tim.
Oh, nice.
It's amazing. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to, it's funny, I can speak for quite a few people when I say that you're just saying how essentially everyone feels. But how did the name for like the album Global Crisis come about? Was it just a way to summarize like everything you're talking about on the album, or is there a story?
Basically, yeah. We started writing as like lyrics were starting to come together. We were thinking like what we could call it, and we were looking at like poignant lines from songs and all this type of thing, looking for things that we could pull. We had like a list of stuff, and one of them was Global Crisis, and it wasn't like a line pulled from any particular track. And it was just, it's kind of like naming anything, whether it's your band or an EP or whatever. Like it was the thing that everyone didn't necessarily love, but didn't hate either. It was just like, oh yeah, like that could work. And we just kind of sat on it for a while. And then I think everyone was just like, no, I think it works. And then we started seeing the album art come together as well. And I think that kind of solidified it. That solidified it for everyone, I think, because it did kind of encompass everything that we were kind of talking about on the record.
Yeah, I think we've been asked about, you know, like the lyrics and kind of the themes that we discuss. And I would remember being on an interview and it was like, you know, how are you feeling about it? And really just summarizing that, we're pissed off in short, like, but it really is, we wanted to raise awareness and raise attention to these issues. And, you know, kind of, we have that platform. We want to, you know, raise awareness and support those and, you know, like spread awareness and the message that what's happened over the past 2 years, like it sucked. Like it has been very tough for everyone. And, we wanted to encompass that. I think Global Crisis, when we saw it, kind of sat there nicely for that. And we kind of sat on it. And then the artwork, like I love the artwork. That's the smoothest artwork I've ever had. Like we're just like, this is the concept. And then all of a sudden it was there. And I was like, wow. Like, so it really was just kind of like the bow on the package that was the album for us.
Because who did the artwork? Like, how did you guys get to sort of like this point? Like, did you have an idea of what you wanted, or? Yeah,
we did. Jaya, the other guitar player, he's a little bit more graphically minded, and we were talking about, I think we had a few random thoughts like earth burning, whatever, and then we looked at a bunch of different stock photos and stuff, because we were looking at like photos from like the BLM protests in America,
like stick to your guns album artwork.
Like looking at what other artists had kind of tapped into in the past, and kind of thinking, you know, what could we kind of do, and we sort of settled on the idea of like a figure standing in front of Earth as an onlooker, sort of watching everything unfold. It's fairly non-specific, but like it obviously, you know, when you dive into the lyrics, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about, you know, political, social movements and things like that. But yeah, it was a little bit of trial and error, but a good buddy, Anthony Heresy, put it together for us, and he did a exceptional job.
Was there any, did you guys have any hesitation around any of your tracks in regards to like what they're about and like I suppose like, you know, there's always that, especially in the music industry, about like who or what you talk about. And
Yep. I don't. I think everyone has a little bit of like kind of, because everyone, you know, thinks about like what other people are going to think about them. So I think there was always that thing in the back of your mind, like, you know, people just going to like, you know, what are people going to say about it? But the overwhelming majority of people have been very responsive to it and, you know, have really liked it. So, you know, if there are a couple of naysayers out there, well, fuck them, like, you know.
Yeah. And like,
But
I remember I've told this story a couple of times, but it was like that YouTube comment, like someone commented on one of our videos once and was like, leave the politics out of music. And I'm like, but we, like, as artists with a platform, have a responsibility to raise awareness and speak up for those who can't. And so, like, you know,
it's not even like about being musicians. It's like everything is political. But yeah, like we have like we're a bunch of musos, you know, and we can cobble together songs, and you know, it's something that we're passionate about as individuals. But also I think Rising Tide was a bit of a jump. It was a bit of a test for us as well, because that was the first politically charged song we had done. And I think that kind of gave us a bit more confidence moving into the full length, talking about these issues.
It weirds me out how people like don't involve politics. I'm like, but politics, music's personal, and politics affect you personally. So how are you not writing about politics? Like, I'm just, that makes no sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands out there which are hyper political, but yeah, people don't always pick up on that for some reason. But yeah, I think that like not every single song on this record is necessarily political. Some are more social issues, or like some stuff is more personal. But yeah, I think it's important, you know, like we've written all the sad emo songs before, and I think just sort of watching what's happened over the last 18 months is kind of, you know, it's what we want to talk about, you know. It's all the best lyrics that we wrote were thinking about things that were going on at the time.
So how did all the features come about in regards to like did you think about those people in regards to those tracks, or was it just more like an idea with those tracks?
Rising Tide was, we wanted a guest spot, and Sean is a fellow younger man. So Axel was good friends with him, so he just asked him to jump on, because obviously they have both very strong feelings about Black Death in custody. And Danielle was your friend, Andrew, I believe.
Yeah, so we like played in pop punk bands together for ages and like went to uni together. And I really wanted like a female voice on Long Slow Whisper. And I showed her band All Hours to the guys, and I was like, hey, like, listen to this, what do you think? And they were like, yeah, like, let's get her on. And I was very, very lucky that she said yes to jump on that track, because I love that track. So
I've literally got a note next to this question that says Danielle on the Long Slow Whisper, chef's kiss.
Thanks. Yeah, it turned out really, really well. So
yeah, that's one that I'm very keen for people to hear. That wasn't out as a single. And Bruce Shillingsworth was kind of just, we had the song written, and we had this big kind of spacey intro at the start of Backburner, and I was messaging Axel being like, I feel like a quote would be really good here. And I was looking at like Malcolm X or Kwame True or Fred Hampton, and then he sent me that video of Bruce, and I was like, that's perfect, because it directly relates to what we're talking about, and it keeps it at home as well, because instead of like not that, you know, anything that any other, you know, person has said in the past, but it just felt right to have someone of like indigenous origin on the track. So Axel reached out to him, was like, is it okay if we use this, your speech? And he's like, gave us like a I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was like hyper positive. Like it was like, I'm more than happy for you guys to use my voice in what you're doing. So
Yeah, he said like that he knew like that we knew, as he knows that we need to be listening to our elders and like taking in what's being said, like, because obviously Backburner is about land management and around backburning techniques and whatnot. And so he was like, we know that that's the way forward and we need to actually listen and adopt those techniques instead of ignoring it.
I'm just looking at one of these questions that I sort of like noted down as like a maybe question, because it sort of mentions how so I come over to Australia a lot, mostly for like music festivals and gigs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention how like how Unify does like Welcome to Country at the sort of like start of the festival. How it was more like a question of how like how you guys sort of like feel around those things, because I suppose like in regards to like Māori culture here, those things can either be like, depending on how they're done, and I suppose like who they're done by, like it's like amazing and like you're glad it's done, but it also can feel like tokenistic depending on how it's done as well.
Yeah. That's a great question, and I'm bummed that Axel isn't here to answer that.
I was just going to say, the part that I found really important, because obviously, Axel is a Jugendband man and the person in the band that can speak on these issues for us. But the part that I found really important around it is education. Like even around NAIDOC, some of the nice stuff we were doing around like looking up, whose land you are on, whose land you're working and learning on, and raising that awareness and talking to people and having that dialogue. That to me doesn't feel forced. That feels like, we want to do something positive. We want acknowledgement. We want education. And I feel if it comes from the right place and people are doing it for the right reasons, then you avoid, like you said, that tokenistic kind of this is being forced, because that's obviously never what we want. That's not our intent. So I really like it when, festivals include it. I think it's really nice.
I think it's very important, and kind of furthering your point about education. It's like probably a lot of people who would go to these events wouldn't think about that, not in like a malicious way necessarily, but like, hey, like you are standing on this land, not what the white person has called it. So I think it's important, and I think I'd like to see more of that sort of thing. We're kind of trying to talk for Axe, but yeah, I guess whether or not it's tokenistic, I think is kind of would maybe have more to do with who's asking them to do it, and as long as they're being respectful.
Yeah, I think Unify does it quite well in the way that there's nothing happening around that time. You know what I mean? Like you have to sort of be there. Like you can't miss it for anything else.
Yeah.
And the way it's actually like at main stage and stuff as well, like it's pretty much like in the main area, like you have to acknowledge this because of where it is.
Yeah.
And I personally really like that. I mean, obviously, like I'm Māori myself, like but from New Zealand, but it's almost like nice going there because it almost feels like it's all one thing in a way. Like it's like it feels like I'm being acknowledged in a way. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. It got deep.
It's good. Yeah. It's nice to get challenging questions.
Yeah. Playing Unify, did I write
that?
Yeah,
yeah.
Very exciting. Yeah.
That is one of my questions.
Yeah, very amazing opportunity for us. So very excited to get down there for that.
Because this is the first time you guys are playing Unify?
Yeah, correct.
It's funny because I was like, I've been so many years, but I also like, I just forget who's played because I feel like the line is always like hectic. So
it kind of blurs.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's a whirlwind of a weekend.
I feel like also because they don't really like stop, have a gap or anything. So it just feels like you've gone away and the same band might still be playing, but it's just like consistent.
It's all about the vibe. That was the first thing I noticed when I went. It's very not clicky. Like you just can go up to a bunch of random people you've never met before and just have a yarn. It's great.
Yeah, I think, was it last year, year before? One year I just turned up. Then I got told to come watch like that. It's like I don't know what the game is called, but it's like a clothesline, and it's just got
Goon of Fortune, yeah.
And then like I sort of walked down further.
Where did they get the clothesline from?
That's what I wanted to know, because it was like full proper like
close hoist, yeah.
They must have brought one. Like I wouldn't put it past people. It
was commitment, but I was like watching it and I was like, when this won't happen anymore because COVID, but
Yeah.
I mean, it probably will. People will do it, but yeah, I sort of love the vibe of Unify because I think also then we ended up walking down further, and people were playing like this sort of like catch game, and they just like you literally just stood there and just jumped in, like you didn't know who anyone was, but you just sort of like joined the game, and then it was like so competitive, but everyone was like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
don't even know your name, but woo!
Whenever there's like there'll be like a crowd amassing for some reason, and everyone just kind of like goes over to see what it is. It could literally be anything.
It
I
was
remember
like
one
beer
year.
can jousting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one. That was one I saw one year. It was like wizard staffs,
Yeah.
and there'd be like someone on someone else's shoulders, and then they just.
So what has the like reception sort of been like for all your guys' singles like from this album? And like obviously I don't necessarily mean like numbers, I just mean in regards to like response from like fans and friends and family.
Really good. I think like we made the right call dropping Backburner first, being that it was very kind of similar vibe to Rising Tide. It was also like it was a little bit different to some stuff, to what we'd done in the past as well. So I think it was quite refreshing as well for a lot of people. But yeah, I think overall everyone's been really, really, really positive towards it all.
Yeah, I think like you, because Backburner came out like the start of the year, and the reception was very like warm to that. People had kind of like people wanted music. They were starving for music, and obviously we couldn't have live music yet, so we put that out. People really latched onto it. We got a lot of positive feedback, a lot of interest from people. Josh on Short Fast Loud is always speaking highly of our singles, and it's awesome to be on the show. And then from there, we did things like False Hope, Fake Happiness. The next single was done in a what are they called? I guess a light studio room.
Yeah.
And I really I've always wanted to do a clip in one of the big white rooms and have the different colors, so that the kind of purple pink aesthetic that we went with that video clip was really nice. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Speaking of reception, when did we get asked about Unify? Was that between False Hope and Show Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're just at no point during the year what did we expect to get an email from them. And my first thought was okay, I guess someone's been listening to our music. We must be doing something right.
Yeah. It was they liked the purple in the film clip because the flyer for Unify is purple. So
yeah, for sure. So that was a nice confidence boost, I think. I was I think that kind of solidified okay, I think we're on a good path here.
Yeah, the music speaks for itself. That's what we've always kind of wanted, is that you come and see us live, you listen to our songs, and you really know what we're about. And it's been great. Show Me, the one of the more recent singles that we did film clip for, that was really well received as well. A big chorus, big clean singing chorus, which we've done a couple, but none I think like that. So for people to hear, obviously Axel and Nat's vocal range, hear our range in songwriting, and there was no kind of that's a bit different or that's a bit weird. It was just all positive. So it's been really great. Yeah.
Because I mentioned that even the singles sort of have the artwork flows really well together. So I just want to know if you planned how that worked like that, or did it just
that was all Jaya. That was all Jaya's idea. Our guitarist who does a lot of the more simple graphic stuff for us. Because Rising Tide was just a very simple, it was it was a pic of the ocean, and it was all black with just the gold writing on top. And he was I'll kind of keep that similar theme of just the Wildheart with something that was kind of in line with the film clip kind of color scheme. So obviously Backburner was red, it had fire in the background, and then False Hope had the diamond with or kind of reflection-y pinks and purples. So just kind of keeping that kind of consistency with the video clips.
And then Show Me was the red and green, which works. He tied that in really well. Because that was exactly
it was basically
what
whatever lighting setup we had in the video was kind of just what he put on the single art. I wouldn't it wasn't thought of that far in advance. He was just like, "Oh, I should do this." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds great."
But if anyone asks, it was very well thought out, and we intentionally planned it the whole way. It is amazing having a graphic designer in your band, because you can just shoot ideas back and forth very quickly and get quality stuff. So yeah, very thankful for his hours that he's put into that.
Need it now. Like
Yeah.
you have to. So I can't remember who I was talking to, but it's like, okay, I'm putting this out. We need a square thing and a story thing and an A4 thing, and it's just.
I can do it in Paint. I don't know. Or Word. I don't know.
So you have like, I also wanted to ask about this. So like the barbed wire heart that you have in your name. So like, what made you want to like put that in your name? Like obviously it like works with your band name as well.
Yeah, that was literally it. Because we literally just needed a new logo, and we thought, oh, it'd be cool if we could somehow incorporate a heart into it. Because we wanted a few different variations of it as well, like an abbreviated version, and we've got versions with and without it. But yeah, it was because when we first started, it was years ago now, we made like a heart out of I forget the name of it, but it's like those bendable lights.
Oh, the big like LED strips.
Yeah. So we just like made a heart-shaped thing that we did have on stage. Can't remember what happened to it, but we were kind of like, we should just incorporate a heart back into the design somewhat. And, you know, the barbed wire is just to make it a bit edgy, you know, because we're a hardcore band.
Yeah.
I've got some fun questions now because I think interviews are too serious.
Yep.
So my first one is favorite snack.
I love hot chips. Hot chips and gravy. I'm a sucker for it. That's been like a COVID go-to.
Favorite snack. I've been eating the salt and vinegar veggie crisps a lot lately. I just kind of like come back from Coles with like 3 or 4 bags of them and they're gone.
They're so good, but like you eat a bag of those and you feel like you've eaten like 4,000 carbs.
Yep.
They're so filling.
Your most overused phrase.
I don't know. That's probably a question for you, Andrew. What do I say?
Overused. Oh, what do you say?
It might be sick or rad or.
Yeah, I think it's sick. Like when you just like, we'll be chatting in the group chat and it'll be like this big long thread. And then all of a sudden it's just like sick. And everyone just kind of goes back to work. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be
I'm
sick.
I'm going to roll with that.
Yep. I like it. Because I notice like all my connectives when I'm like talking. So I'll say like a lot when I'm like, when your brain's lagging. And now because I've raised awareness of it, I'm going to keep saying it in this interview. Like or they're my two. I always will say them while I'm like thinking what to say.
I hate when you're aware of it and then you sort of try to put yourself not to.
And then it gets worse.
You're going to say because you're trying to avoid it.
Yeah, someone's going to be sitting there listening to the interview tallying every time I say like.
So when you think of New Zealand, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
I went there like years ago and it was just like, it was mountains. Like got off the plane, I was like, holy crap, there's mountains everywhere and they're all covered in snow. Because I grew up in Cairns, which is like North Queensland. So it was either like not too hot or disgustingly humid. So yeah, it was just snow and mountains.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think it's probably like the hospitality of the people. Like I'm a high school teacher, and like my previous school, a large percentage of my students were Pacific Island students, Māori, and like so I already knew how welcoming those families were, and working with those students was. And then when I went to New Zealand myself, everyone was just like very like getting off the plane and just meeting people that I'd spoken to but never actually met. Everyone was really welcoming, really lovely. So that was something that stood out to me.
If you could start a rumor about yourself, what would it be and why?
That I'm heaps handsome.
That's the rumor.
Or that I'm a really, really good guitar player. Like just obnoxiously talented. Like the new John Petrucci.
I don't know, maybe it's something to do with like band. Like maybe I was a member in Parkway Drive once. Maybe that'd be cool.
He was a shadow
founding member, maybe. I don't know. Close to Byron, kind of. So could be true.
That was all the questions I had.
No, thank you so much for having us on.
And hopefully I might
yeah,
travel.
that would be very cool.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
If not Unify, maybe we can come play in New Zealand sometime.
Yes.
That would be another fucking
that would be very cool.
Rad time.
You could